let's move on our class. So we are still on the part of asynchronous tasks and multi-threading. Previously, we have discussed on the asynchronous tasks. Okay, so this is good for the I/O operation. Okay, if you have I/O intensive operation, then you can use tasks. Okay. Okay, so this is like a simulated parallel. Okay, so this one will be simulated parallel because it's not really parallel, but you are taking the I/O here, then you have the yield. Okay, then you can switch to another task. Okay, task A, task B. So you have impression that both A and B are running at the same time. Okay, because this is doing the I/O and this one doing some computation. Okay. But if you want to have fine detail, fine grain, then you need to have multi-threading. Okay, then let's see the what you call the multi-threading in Julia. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the threads. Okay. Okay. Now let's see the threads. Thread is part of running. Okay, so something like this. Okay, so you have several parts of running a program. Remember that whenever you have the process, then after that you have the shared memory, then you have thread 1, thread 2, and how many threads that you have. Okay, so this is for thread. So you are like a parallel roads here. Okay, so you add more. You just imagine that whenever you have the highway, you have 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, even 4 line, then this one will be faster compared to if you have only 1 line like this. Okay, because now you can run in parallel. Okay, so that is the basic idea of using threads. Okay, so thread is created from the process. Okay, then the process create a thread here. Okay, so you can see here it have the shared memory, although it can have its own private variables, but you can communicate indirectly using the shared memory operation. Okay, so the threads are sequence that cannot independent on the CPU. And the first question is how many threads should we have? Okay, if you go to the what you call in Unix, you can find top managed H. Okay, in Windows you can task manager. Okay, and then see how many threads that's running by the operating system. Okay, but if you want to optimize, then normally with what you call the number of thread is the same like the number of physical core. Okay, so number of thread is similar like the number of physical core. Okay, why physical? Okay, not we have one logical, because if you are using the hyperthreading, whether you are using the Intel or AMD processors, one processor looks like okay in the bracket because what you call the implementation wise it take turns. Okay, it looks like it can do 2 instructions at the same time. Okay, so that's why you have physical core and you have logical core. Okay, so tasks are lightweight. Thread need to store some state. Remember the what you call a 5-state model. You have running. Okay, you have ready, run, and then you can have suspend when you are doing the I/O and so on. Okay, or block when you are doing the I/O. Okay, block and suspend. Okay, we should only have a limited number of threads. The number of threads should be corresponding to the number of CPU cores that we have. Okay, then how and what particular is I mentioned here the one particular complication is hyperthreadings. Again, but this is again simulated because actually you have only one CPU instruction executed at one time. Okay, so this is for CPU intensive programs. Means that so many calculation, only computation, multiplication, addition, division, and so on. Hyperthreading usually does not provide much benefit. Okay, so we really want to count the physical CPU core. So what you can do, you can use the verbose mode of the version info function in Julia to view the system information. Okay, so when you type like this, you try on your own, version info verbose equal to true, then you have here this one I'm running on my home computer, so I have here AMD Ryzen 7, for example. Okay, and where's the cores? Okay, not specified. And then if you can also use the Windows subsystem on Linux, okay, WSL, and then you type H top. Okay, then you can see how many cores here. But this is also logical core instead of physical core. Okay, so this is logical core. In Windows also you can see you have logical processors, but you have also cores here. Okay, so that's how to measure CPU cores. But you can see here can be complex and system depend on the system, depend on Linux, depend on whether you are on Linux, whether you are on Windows. Okay, so that's why we have the here HW lock. So this one should be capital HW lock, hardware lock, to provide in uniform and pragmatic information to this and other hardware information. Okay, so for example here you can use later on number of physical cores. Okay, this is physicals. Okay, so it will provide us with a consistent, correct enumeration. So this is the building blocks for the what you call for the threads programming. Okay, because we want to make our thread is similar like the what you call similar like in similar number like the processors. Okay, so if I see here on my computer the office for both equal to true. Okay, and then you can see in my case I have Intel, or I have here the processor. I'm not sure why it doesn't show it here. So I have 8 processor here. Okay, when you go to task manager also in my office computer, you can see also here the CPU. Yeah, cores equal to 4, logical processor equal to 8. Okay, this one I think calculating the logical processor as well. Okay, so now if I use wlog, I haven't add, so add wlog, add package. Okay, let's it will take some time. Okay, so that's okay. So then after that you can type this code. Okay, you can type this code. Okay. Okay, now let's see here. The number of real threads that Julia can run is fixed at startup. So if you want to change, I'm using 2 threads or 4 threads, then you need to rerun. Okay, it also it depends. So you depends on the Julia num threads. Okay, the default number is 1. So you can, but you can use also the. Then after that you can use the number of thread function. Okay, using base thread and thread. This one is common library, a common package, so you can use this directly without installing. Okay, then this is the thread ID. Okay, so if I see here in Julia, okay, now finish. Okay, go back, and then what I do, num physical cores. Oh, using the log. Number of physical core is 4. Okay. Okay, what is saying here? So I'm running here. I'm running using click like this. Okay, I can use also something like this. Okay, then I can, because I put in the path Julia, then I can run Julia here. Okay, then what you have is the environment variable. Okay, so Julia num thread. So let's say set Julia num thread equal to 4. Okay, then I have run Julia from here. Then after you can use base thread. Okay, then end threads. Okay, it is 4. Okay, so you can use like that. Or the other way around, you can also using the command line. Okay, so I exit here. Exit. Okay, let's see. You can start Julia. I think minus T. Minus T2. Okay, minus T is the number of thread. Okay, so now let's see. Using, I can use the other one. Is using base thread and threads. See, this one become 2. Okay, so this is how you use, how you change. Okay, how you change. You can use the environment variables. What is environment variable? The same like this. Set Julia num thread equal to 4. Or in Linux, it will be export. If you're using Bash, export Julia num thread equal to 4. Okay. Oh, the equals not working. Yeah, just use like this. Oops. How to put? I forgot in Bash. Okay, so you can see. You can type. I think display. You change, but also you can do like this. Julia minus T. How many that you want? Okay, minus T4. Oh, Julia here on the what you call old version, it doesn't recognize. Okay, it doesn't recognize. So so this is, you can see here, this is version 1.41. 1.1, this is version 1.6.3. Okay, so better to use the latest version, so you can do like this. Okay, Julia Manasty, I'm running 4 threads. Okay, then using base thread, then end threads, I'm using 4. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. Then what else? Also, you can identify. Okay, so whenever you have creating, for example, 4 threads like this. Okay, when you call thread ID in here, it will produce 1. If you call thread ID in here, it produces 2. If you call thread ID in here, 3 and 4 and so on. Okay, so although you are calling the same function, but it produces different result. Okay, depends on which thread are you calling that function. Okay. So this is good. So that means that you can use, remember, single program multiple data. So we can do like this. So you can do task parallelism, and we can do also data parallelism. Task parallelism means you can identify based on thread ID working on different data. Okay, so you can do task parallelism and data parallelism at the same time. Okay, so by default, all Julia code is running on the first thread. Okay, so like this, for example, a equal to 0 equal to 4. Then for I in 1 until number of threads. So if we have 4, then this is 4. Okay, and then thread ID, you are calling thread ID means you're only calling the first thread here. Okay, mean you are only updating the first one. Okay, so let's see. So I'm in Julia. Okay, yeah. So I have 4. So let's see a equal to 0's 4. Okay, and then I have for I in 1 to n threads. Okay, then a thread ID, update the a thread ID equal to thread ID. Okay, and print the a. See, only 1. Okay, so by default only the first thread. Then how we want to have for all thread, we just simply what you call put here before the 4 threads macro. Okay, this is thread macro like this, and see here now become 1 2 3 4. Okay, means that this one we are using the thread, all the threads here. Okay, we're using the thread. Okay, for I equal to 1 into thread, so you have a1 equal to thread ID number 1 and so on. Okay, it will distribute directly. Okay, it will distribute. So if you have 1 to 4, okay, then you have a1 equal to 1, a2 is a thread ID number 2 equal to 2, a3 equal to 3, 4, okay, equal to 4. Okay, so that's why you have here 1 2 3 4. Okay, a thread ID. Okay, so the A array is now filled in a way that proof each iteration of the loop ran on the separate thread with different thread ID. So how do you know? Because it's thread ID equal to thread ID. It cannot equal to I, but equal to the thread ID. Okay. So the Julia's threading model, so that's important. Annotated loops are automatically split among variable threads. So if you have variable I here, then it will be split. I will be 1 2 4. So this one will go to thread number 1, go to thread number 2, 3, 4, and then if you have 5 and 6, then go back to thread number 1, thread number 2. Okay, so this is automatically split among available. So without the program having to explicitly break up computation or assign the code to threads. Okay, so we try to minimize the complexity as much as possible. Of course, there is some trade-off. Okay, but this is similar like if you are using the OpenMP for C. Okay, rather than you are using the pthreads. Okay, pthread has many final controls, but OpenMP is more straightforward, similar like Julia. So you just put like pragma par4, parallel 4, then you can run here in parallel. Okay. Okay, so let's see here now the prefix summation. Okay, prefix summation, also known as cumulative sum or CumSum, means that you are given an array, the prefix sum return another array. So you have 1 2 3 4. So this is sum in here will be 1, then here will be 3, here will be 6, here will be 10. Okay, so this is cumulative sum. Okay, so you can follow this one. Okay, so you add all, the last one we're adding all. Okay, cumulative sums. Okay, So you can hear a prefix thread. Remember this one, what is this? This one's mean you are changing the input. Okay, so input is Y and return back as Y. Okay, so you modify the Y here. Okay, you modify the Y. Where is it? Yeah, as you can see here, this is modifying the Y. Okay, modifying the input. Okay, so yeah, so you are doing like this. This is the first for loop is the potential for parallelization. So you thread here. Okay, then you put inbounds. Why? Remember what is inbound? Inbounds mean you are sure that it will not have beyond the length of the buffer. Okay, because you can see here we put this one. Okay, so it will not go beyond the length of the buffer. So you just put inbound here. So there's no array checking. Okay, there's no check. So the compiler will have faster processing because it does not need to check whether you have buffer overflow or not. Okay, but you need to make sure that you don't have buffer overflow in here. Okay. Okay, so the threads imply code. This is imply, not explicit. Okay, running simultaneously on multiple processor cores in a computer. So on the fine grain, like using pthread, for example, you can assign this is on the core number 1, this is on core number 2, and so on. But here on Julia threading model, we just leave it to Julia to put where the threads is running. Is it on core number 1, core number 2, 3, and 4? Okay. Yeah. Okay. What's the problem here? The data race. Okay, this is the problem of data race because the two threads or more can attempt to change the same piece of data in memory at the same time. Okay, so you have a data race here. Okay. Okay, so let's see how we do this one. So for example, we have the multi-threaded multi-core simulation to calculate the pi. For example, we want to calculate the pi. Okay. The simplest way to parallelize this function, okay, this function is add a thread annotation in front of the for loop. Where's the for loop? Yeah, here. Okay, you just add that one. Okay, but the random function is the random function here is called inside the loop. We generate a random number using the global random generators. Okay, so when multiple threads try to generate random numbers simultaneously, we get the problem of multiple threads trying to change the same location in memory. Okay, what you call, then if you have that one, then you have different result. Okay, depends on the speed, whether you are running thread 1 first, thread 2 first, or other thread. Okay, so to fix this one, then we need to give each thread its own random generator so that there is no data race. Okay, so there's no data race. Okay, so this is what you do. Constant, we put it as constant random number generator list. Okay, for I into 1 to threads. Okay, then we write our loop to ensure that each thread use a separate RNG. Okay, because yeah, so you can see here RNG is based on the thread. This is missing one here, I think. So yeah, so this missing this one. Okay, so this is based on based on the thread ID. Okay, then you have its own random generator. Okay, then you have this one. Okay, when you run here, it can have for 2 million times, 2.5 million times in the 4 cores. Okay, then you have here the result. Okay. So we split up our problem into separate blocks for each thread. So we do this explicitly, taking as input the number of threads. Yeah, here. Okay, number of threads here. Okay, number of threads. Because the input is number of thread, and here is the yeah, this is the loop, and this is the number of element. Yeah. Okay, so it can be also be done automatically based on the number of available threads. So and also on each thread, we look over a section of the entire problem, and in the end, add the result to a per thread element in the inside array. Okay, so we have the per thread element. As you can see the inside here. This is per thread element. Then after that, after finish, then you sum inside. Mean if you see this one, this is running on 4 thread. If you are running 4, then after that you sum all to become one number. Okay, divide by n divided by loop. So you have the pi. Okay, at the end you have the pi. Okay. So you can see here the pi serial 10 million times you have you're running for 36 milliseconds, and pi threads using thread, okay, 2.5 this half, okay, but you have 4 threads here, 18. Okay, 18 milliseconds. Okay, so to ensure performance gain, then we need each thread to run independently with no global state. Global state means there is some you want to avoid the data race. Okay, so if you reading will be okay, but when you write something on one variable here, for example m variable on the memory, then you need to what you call take care on the data race. Okay. So that's why in Julia it's not as difficult as in thread programming. Is not as difficult in Rust. Okay, in Rust you'll have some. It will ensure that the data is not happen, but you need to have more control on the Rust program. Okay. Okay, now let's see here. If you want to sum an array of number across many threads, hoping to improve performance compared to doing it sequentially on single thread. So we can now we have the summation. Okay, let's see how we do summation. So compare sum thread base to Julia built-in sum. So for example, this thread base. Okay, so you are doing loops here. Okay, then you have inbounds r plus. So you're doing the summation. Okay, summation. Okay, then after that return r. Okay, so what will happen? So we do a random 10 million times, for example. Julia using this one using the Julia built-in function. Okay, this is 6.746 milliseconds. Okay, and if you are using the sum thread base A, okay, so you have here 1.5 second. You can see it's very long. What is happening? There are two errors here. Not only the function producing the wrong answer, okay, it produces the wrong answer, but it's also much slower. Okay, compare the milliseconds to the second here. Okay, because we are trying to read and write to variable r here. This is reading. This is reading and writing. This is writing. Okay, when you have equalized to something here, so you are doing some writing. Okay, and you have the data race. Okay. So one solution is to create R as an atomic variables, a single. Remember the atomic operation. You cannot like you are answering the critical section. Okay, so once one thread is get hold on R, no other thread can access this one. You need to wait. Okay, so then we have here the atomic additions methods, which work with an atomic variables. Remember this one. This one again, the input will be modified as the output. Okay. So you are doing the same thing, threads. Okay, you put here atomic. Okay, and you have here atomic add R with the element of xi. So this is from here. Okay, so convert to this one. Okay, because you want to have the atomic operation and then return for that part. Okay, when you do this one, okay, this is 5 point something. This is 5 point something here. Okay, the same. Okay, the result is the same. But let's see this one. 6.746 millisecond, but this one is 800 times. Okay, the result is correct, but still much slower than the sequential code. So what happened here is the atomic operation are generally slower than regular operations because only one thread at one time can increment the sum at a time. Okay, so that's why it become slower. Okay, remember that when you have doing the atomic operation, then no other thread it need to wait. So you have something like this. You have parallel road, for example. Then this is atomic. Okay, so everybody need to pass here. So you can imagine it will be jam here. Okay, so this is atomic operation. And after that, you can do parallel again, but still this one will slow down all the traffic. Okay, will slow down all the traffic. Okay. So to make this faster, we will need to reduce the contention between threads. So we need to break the sum so that different accumulators are used for different thread. Okay, so this we are using the sum per thread. Okay, then we can do atomic operation there. Okay, so this is thread. Okay, and then this is single instruction multiple data. So you are doing thread here, then you are doing single instruction multiple data, and this is inbound. So you are adding, you are dividing the array. Okay, this is here sum for thread number 1, sum for thread number 2, sum for thread number 3, sum for thread number 4. Okay, after it finished, then you need to add again. Okay, you need to add again, and I put here inbound to make it faster. Okay, because it will not go beyond the buffer size. Okay, then return result. So you can see here some thread split A. 1.5 millisecond. What's the difference? Sorry. I think this one is using the previous one. Okay, sorry. I need to change to yeah, this one, sum A. Okay, sum A around 6.746 millisecond. Okay, and this one when you run again, okay, you run, you have now microsecond. Okay, so the code is now more complicated than the simple code. Okay, so unlike the PyThread function previously that we automatically split the data using available thread, the sum thread split is now fast and scales with increasing cores and thread. I think this one, if I'm using different core, okay, I think it's if I'm using the 2 cores, I need to put some note here. If I'm using 4 cores here, okay, so it's scale up. Okay, it's scale. Okay. In Julia, there are many other operations defined in Julia beyond the atomic add function we use. So we have atomic subtraction, cast, exchange, atomic AND, atomic OR, and other things. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to the another one, which is the synchronization primitive. So while the thread macro provide a reasonable high-level abstraction, so we don't need to worry about the details. Okay, so we are on the high-level abstraction. Okay, but we might need to use the lower level tools to coordinate and synchronize threaded code. Okay, you are doing something differently. For example, put synchronization, then we move on to the next one. Okay, put synchronization barrier. In MPI, this is called barrier. Okay, so to synchronize, okay, because you want to ensure that although you are in sub thread to run at the same time, but maybe behave differently. Okay, so some core maybe has been used by the operating system, for example, and it will be slower, okay, and so on. Okay, so you need to ensure that you need to synchronize, okay, all the thread here so that it produces the correct result. Okay, so Julia provides a terminal set of synchronization primitives such as locks and semaphores, okay, which may be used to manage synchronization for both threads and also tasks. Okay, we have locks, we have mutex. What is mutex? The one that is locked, this the one that can unlock. Okay, are used to guard resources and critical section of the code. Okay, so let's see if you are using the PySerials. Okay, and we write the output from each thread into a file for later analysis. Okay, when you're writing, then you need to have you need to ensure that you need to make it critical section. Okay, otherwise you'll have different. If you both thread writing at the same time, then you have a data race. Okay, or you're likely to corrupt. Okay, so we can protect using the mutex. So let's see here. You have constant file. You have temporary name. Okay, so you create temporary name here. This is in what you call in Linux. Okay, in Linux, so you have this one temporary file. In Windows, it produces different thing. Okay, on the Windows temporary directory. Okay, so M is the mutex. Okay, and then you can put lock M and then unlock M. Okay, when you're writing, you lock first, then unlock. So this is critical section. Okay, you unprotect means that also this one becomes serial. Okay, this one become serial. Okay. Yeah, so the lock will lock and then unlock will release the lock. Okay. So the lock must be followed by an unlock from the same thread that acquired the lock. So this is called mutex. Okay, so then this is the result from 4. You can see here, it what you call is you are running for this one, for example. Okay, 1 until 50. So you have 1 until 50, but it depends. Okay, which one will run first? Which one get hold on this lock first? Okay, in here. Loop number 4 is doing first, and then I number 2, 6, and 1, and until later on 50. Okay. Okay, there are other lock types available, such as spin lock and the recursive spin lock, and there are also semaphore, which can be used as the counting semaphore. You know, the what you call signals. You can have the signal you add, and then you plus, and then you minus. Okay, you initialize with some number, and then you plus, and then you minus. Okay, so we can use acquire as, and then this is printing. Okay, and then base release as. So this is critical section there. Okay, but the IO, this is IO as well. It's not currently thread safe in Julia. For the core print function is low level primitive, which is safe to use from within the thread. Okay, now let's move on to threads, and this is garbage collector. Okay, garbage collector. Okay. So when writing multi-threaded program, it is important to realize that Julia's garbage collector does not run in threaded mode. Otherwise, then it will interact with your code. Okay. So because any garbage collection activity will block all threads. Okay. We'll run first the garbage collector. Okay. And then the thread that is currently running will be stopped. Okay. So it is best not to do large allocation inside the threads. Similarly, Julia's compilation and information mechanism are not thread safe as well. So any compilation will block all the thread from running. So it is important to ensure that any code reading and compilation does not happen in multi-threaded code. Okay. Okay, and on the shown thread libraries, so we are using the we are using the normal libraries, okay, in Julia's, but many libraries bundled with Julia create their own threads. Okay, so most important is the Open Blast. So this is the library used in Julia for matrix operation. This is popular libraries. So Open Blast is very efficient using threads. So our algorithms mainly performing matrix multiplication or factorization will get multi-core performed automatically. So you can see here automatically. Okay, you don't do anything, but it because you are using the Open Blast in Julia, so you are running automatically. Okay, so this is for example A random n, B random 1000. Okay, you are creating square matrix here, and then you just do matrix multiplication without doing anything, without doing the threads. Okay, without doing the thread, for example. Okay, or SIMD. Okay, it runs on multi-core. You can see this is the run. This is if I'm using the in Windows. Okay, this is if I'm using in WSL or in Linux. Okay, so you can see this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, or it's running. Okay. What is Open Subscription? So when using library that manage and maintain their own threads, such as Open Blast, okay, it is important not to oversubscribe your thread because it's already on thread mode, so you don't need to create in threads again. Okay, so yeah, so when we start multiplying matrix with Julia thread, the total number of threads in the system will soon outpace the capacity of the machine, and performance will suffer. Okay, because the rule of thumb here is you have 4 cores and you have 4 threads. Okay, at maximum. Okay. Okay, and yeah, so you can see here, this is the thread version of the function, which simply adds in front of the loop. Okay, so this is matrix multiplication in serials. Okay, so you are doing your own matrix multiplication, x transpose multiplied by xi. Okay, and then this one is in thread. Okay, you have thread here, and then you have do for each loop. Okay, for each index x. Okay, so you are doing for, you are separating. Okay, separating. Remember, this is for thread number 1, thread number 2, and thread number 3, thread number 4. Okay. So we see that the threaded version is twice as slow as the serial version. So what happens? So this is serial. Okay, 2.86. This is the thread using the our own thread function is slower. Okay, so if you are using a linear algebra here, to get the thread performance back, we need to spell that Open Blast should not use. This is the important thing here. Should not be used. Okay, so blast set number threads to 1 means that the multiplication we don't use the Open Blast Open Blast library. Okay, then when you do this one, then you can see here, this is similar, almost a bit faster than this one. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so on summary, Julia provides a simple thread abstraction to write multi-threaded code. Okay, so it's easy, it's just similar like OpenMP. And however, we need to first ensure that the number of threads is not larger than the number of CPU cores that we have, physical cores. Okay, so we need also to be careful in accessing global state or global variables. The global variables mean the one that is shared among the threads. Okay, because to avoid data race. Okay, so this is to avoid data race. Okay, and finally, we don't want to have over subscription. The function already use multi-thread, for example, but you are doing another thread. Okay, then it will have the performance performance will be slower. Okay. Okay, so that will be this chapter. Okay, any question?